Welcome back to another Alvado video. In today's video, I'm going to be watching a game played by Liquid Robin Songs, the oldest and wisest TFT player. But yes, max set frontline is broken. Aces are broken. If you do not know, the new patch is out, and both of those things got buffed, and they are really strong. That's not what we're here for today. What we're here for is to watch this game and to try and learn as much as possible. Now, in this game, Robin is going to be playing Draven. I'm going to spoil it. He's been playing a couple Draven games, and he's been trying to learn exactly what makes the comp tick. Draven got an attack speed buff, and Ace got buffed. So both Draven's traits and Draven got buffed. Also, Mech got buffed. So even though a lot of the reroll got nerfed, Mech and Ace and Draven all got buffed to counteract the all of the nerfs that hit reroll. So Draven is still kind of playable. Off of the carousel, he went for glove. He wants to play Draven, so with Draven you basically need IE and then you really want Last Whisper. That was his thought process going into this. So he chose to get glove off carousel. He wants to get as much money as possible so he can look to reroll Draven later in the game. He sees calculated loss, and this is a perfect spot to play Draven. He's going to play full open, calculated loss. He had two he had two Wukongs and he was making 20. He just typed in B Draven and then muted everyone. So everyone knows that if they're going to be playing Draven, they're going to be contesting Robin. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up because essentially all he does is just play like a board weak enough to lose and to make sure that he 5 losses for calculated loss value. He basically just holds on to every single supers and every single mech that he can get his hand on while making an econ interval at every level. Go for sword off of carousel. Like I said, Draven wants IE. He wants Last Whisper. He looks like he hit Draven too. Let's see what he does to make sure he loses. So even though he hits Draven too, of course he has calculated loss. Winning a round is definitely not as important as making sure you 5 loss. So you can see even with Draven 2, Mech 2, or Wukong 2, he chooses to replace units to make sure that he guarantees his loss. And the thing is that he's choosing to put his units on the board because he wants people to think that he's strong when he scouts them, and then he's taking them off at the last second just in case some people are trying to grief him in like sacking his entire 5 loss streak. Okay. So now let's start watching from this point in time in the game. He gets dropped sword, bow, tier. Another big change that I think a lot of people are happy about, I'm definitely happy about it, is that last set they made it so that you had to always get at least 1 item on Krugs. If you don't know, the round 3-1 that they currently were on, the PvE round, is called Krugs. And the Krugs could have dropped you 0 item components and could have dropped you like just gold. So in the previous set, people didn't like that. They changed it so that you were guaranteed 1 item. Recently, they changed it again so that you're guaranteed at least 2 items, because 1 item is even not enough. Imagine playing the game and getting dropped 0 items. Especially now that we're at a spot where you guaranteed are getting 2 items. So another thing to note, he could have played a stronger board on round 3-1, but he really wanted to make sure Ace was the only trait that he had in, because if it is a hero augment and Ace is your only trait in, then you're guaranteed to get Draven if the 2-cost slot, or if there's a 2-cost hero augment that shows up. So if you're trying to play Draven and you want to guarantee the Draven hero augments, then make sure you only have Ace in. Because if you have mech in, then there's a chance, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because there's no other 2-cost mechs. But if you have supers in, you just need to make sure you don't have supers in. Because if you have supers in, then you can get Malphite, you can get Lee Sin, and you definitely don't want either of those if you're playing Draven. You really need to guarantee the Draven hero augment. I'm pretty sure the comp is not nearly as playable without one of the Draven hero augments. Both of them are good. Even the support one gives him 75% crit rate along with your entire team. But the League of Draven one, the one that he currently has, is the carry one, and it gives him 35 AD and a 35% chance to drop a gold on kill. And since Draven is basically like your entire carry, he is going to get every single kill, especially since he's an ace unit. Even if your like Lee Sin can just barely kill someone, the Draven's gonna ult, it's gonna hit them before they die, gonna execute them. So he's basically just rolling down to try and hit all the pairs. He chose to roll down to 40 because he had 8 Malphites, so he was looking for Malphite 3 on his roll down past 50, and then he got GPs, so he chose to roll down to 30. And he also wants to make sure he hits one of these pairs to make the future turns easier to play. He really needs to clear up some bench space, so he wanted to make it easy on himself and just try and hit the Malphite immediately. Also, he chose to level to 6 immediately, and he rolled most of his gold on level 6. Now, you definitely can only do a play like that because he has calculated loss. He had, I believe, like 5 Wukongs and like 5 Gangplanks by the time he hit level by the time it was like around Krugs. So normally you want to roll down Slight to hit GP and Wukong, but the thing is that since he already had so many of them, and since he's going to be rolling so much gold on level 6, he just chose to level straight to 6 and roll most of his gold on 6 because he cares a lot more about the Malphite and the Lee Sin and the Draven than he does about getting the Gangplank and Wukong. We can see the final augment. He's actually looking up. He has the Draven comp on all chests like selected. If you don't know, you can look at specific comps and then look to see how well the specific augment does in that comp. And that generally is way better to look at than how good the comp is overall, because there's so many different factors when you're trying to figure out how good an augment is. And most of the time, data that just shows how good the augment is over like the entire stats of the game of TFT is not enough to give you like a complete picture of how good the augment is. But if you go to the exact comp and then type the augment in, and look at how well the augment does in the exact comp you're playing, that's going to give you a lot clearer image of how good the augment is. So he chooses to use that, and he sees that Axiom Arc, I think, was like a 3.7 or something, which, if you don't know, is really high. Anything above a 4.5 is good, and anything like above a 4, or anything below a 4.5, sorry, is good. And then anything below a 4 is basically like insane. So yeah, there were a couple things that I missed out on there. He hit Draven 3, he hit Malphite 3, he hasn't hit Lee Sin yet, but he needs to roll and hit it soon. He also chose to make IE Last Whisper Hodge on his Draven, and he also, considering he had to make Zeke's earlier on in the game, and then his item was, I forget which one it was, but it was either belt or sword, he just was thinking, okay, let me just complete the second Zeke's to just make my Draven a 1v9 machine and see how insane Draven can get. But the issue with this lobby is that there's actually 2 players that have a Last Whisper mech set. And also, attack speed on Draven is really not that important because most of the time he's killing units with his ult. And positioning matters the most by far, because if you have Draven on the wrong side and his ult kind of whiffs and just hits nothing, that can make the fight swing completely differently against your favor. And if you get the lineup correctly and you can snipe the backline unit in one cast, then you can almost guarantee you win a fight no matter what, especially against these mech set frontline carries or like mech set frontline boards, because this Draven is not going to be killing the mech set anytime soon. So you really need to depend on his cast hitting the backline unit, and you kind of have to like cheese them. And then if you kill their entire backline, then you can Draven will eventually out damage the set 1v1. And so yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about. He goes ahead and makes Zephyr, and he really needs the Zephyr to get through the set, but as you can see, the set is in the front. Whether you Zephyr him or not, he is going to end up targeting the set anyways. And so one thing he learned after playing this game, no matter what place you get, you can always learn something. And he's played this comp because he's been trying to figure out exactly what makes like Draven work. And he got a first with this comp earlier, and after playing this game, he came to the realization that you also need tank items. You really need to have a good main tank, because if you do not, and they go through your front line extremely quickly, then it often ruins the Draven angle. You have the entire team walk up and they have a really strong tank, and he's just going to waste his ult on the tank, and most of the time the angle that Draven sends his blades at is not going to be a good angle where it hits some of the backline units as well. But if you have a really strong tank up front and it's surviving at least until 1 or 2 full Draven casts, then that oftentimes can maintain the angle that Draven is looking at, and it can it makes it so that it's a lot easier to snipe the backline unit with his cast. So he's definitely still stabilizing though. He hasn't lost a single round in a really long time. After he hit Lee Sin 3, he chose to level up for a defender, and then he chose to level up for a mascot. He had Yuumi in because Yuumi gives you heart because of Lee Sin and mascot. But the thing is, heart basically does nothing, so he doesn't care. And Nunu is a way better unit, so he just chooses to put Nunu in. And then he finds a Zac, and then he chooses to play Zac over Rel. I think he must have scouted the lobby and saw that most of it was AP. He probably didn't need Defender as much. And Zac can often stall fights to make sure that Draven... to guarantee Draven getting like a really strong... or just to stall. Make sure Draven gets as many casts off as possible so he can try to kill as many units as possible. He also is positioning Draven in the back, and again, I'm pretty sure that is because of how this set is. You really don't want your Draven to be positioned in the front, because if he gets stuck on a mech set or a mech unit, then his angle is not going to be angled towards the backline. Previously, in past metas, sometimes it was correct to frontline your Draven so that he would snipe every single one of the frontline units and just like one tap them all, and then he would just win the fight. But the thing is that with a solo frontline, with this meta being solo frontline, that's not really what you want, and you want him to hit the backline units. So positioning him in the back gives him a lot better angle. against hitting these backline units. He just goes for triple Zeeks there. And he's just trying to play for a top 4 at this point in time. He's rolling for Zach 2. But you can see, or if he scouts, yeah, see, like he scouts real quick. There's one player with a with an Eternal Winter mech set frontline. There's another player with Eternal Winter Leona 2 mech. And there's another player with a mech set without Eternal Winter. And so yes, this game isn't a first, but there's definitely a lot to learn from this game. Mech set with Ace, AP, Mech Leona, Mech set. Yeah, there's a lot to learn from this game, and Draven is definitely still a really strong unit, and just knowing some small things on how you can play him and understanding when it is correct to play him definitely is extremely beneficial. I hope you learned something in this video. If you liked the video, give it a like, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.